Hi, how's everybody doing? It's Crazy Monkey here. So I'm gonna start my blog right now. Try to make this around 10 minutes. Show you some clips of me in Alaska as well. So I'll be going back and forth. I live now in Seattle. It's a living nightmare. Liberal, leftist, Seattle, living nightmare. Can't wait to leave this place. Can't wait to move to Utah or move to Alaska. I've been here for 2 years, but I am married now, and I will be leaving pretty soon, probably 6 months to a year. We will be leaving, hopefully, to Utah or possibly Alaska. So I'm just going to show you some internet stuff, and then I'll talk a little bit more and show you some clips of Alaska. Alright, so first off, let's just talk, before I get into this, let me just show you what you get in Seattle. Let me just, that's not Seattle, that's Middle America in Utah. Here's what you get for $750. Here's the article right here. I'm just going to show you this real quick. This is from Seattle Times. You can click the link yourself. This is basically an apartment for $750. Here's some better pictures on this website. You click on this website, it's got some better pictures. So basically, the outside of the apartment is a modern, stylish building that looks decent. And here's the inside. There's the inside. There it is right there. See the toilet? See the shower? It's a shower, a toilet, a sink, and then one little room. That's the entire apartment. The entire apartment is 130 square foot. You share the kitchen with a bunch of other comrades. You know, with a picture of Chairman Mao, I guess, in the kitchen. I'm just joking about that part, but that's basically what this is. An absolute joke. This is what you get with socialism. This is where you end up. You know, you vote for these socialist Democrats. This is where you end up. You end up in a city like Seattle. You're told how hip it is, how cool it is. You make $50,000 a year, and this is the piece of shit apartment that you get because the rents are sky high in Seattle. So if you only have $1,000 or less, this is where you're going to end up. This is $750 a month. This is like as cheap as it gets. You know, they got some slightly better studios for about $1,200 a month, but this is a joke. And then here's an apartment. That's a house, sorry about that. Alright, so here's an apartment in Seattle. Here it is right there, 491 square foot condo. There's the price, almost $300,000. Absolute joke. This is what you get with liberals. This is what you get with zone restrictions. This is what you get with restrictive building. This is what you get when you have massive, massive, massive out of control immigration. The immigration creates a massive housing crisis, which then drives housing costs through the roof. And then the liberals, the filthy rich liberal elitists, they use zone restrictions to block new development in the farm fields. They use zone restrictions to block development in the cities, and as a result, the house prices skyrocket. They get rich, we get poor. So here's another one in San Francisco. I keep showing you that house. I should show you that in the end. This right here is an absolute piece of shit. This is 290 square foot prison cell apartment, micro studio, $400,000. $400,000 for a tiny little micro studio. But you do get the honor and the privilege of living in San Francisco, the most liberal leftist city in America. Massive zone restrictions, height limits on virtually the entire city. We can't build over 30, 40 feet in virtually the entire city, which caused the house prices to be sky high. It takes like 5 years to build anything in San Francisco because of the bureaucratic nightmare process. San Francisco is a nightmare city. They got rent control. It's horrible. It makes the rent sky high for the new people. It is an absolute disaster city. That micro studio in San Francisco, $400,000 for that micro studio, 290 square foot piece of shit micro studio in San Francisco, $400,000. Man, you go to Utah, you go to Alaska, do you know what you get for $400,000? I mean, you get a freaking mansion for $400,000, folks. You get a fucking mansion, all right? I mean, $220,000 gets you a nice house. A nice house you get for $220,000, all right? These people, these leftists, these fucking leftist, communist, Marxist liberals are the scum of the fucking earth. They use zone restrictions to make the prices go high. These liberal leftists make all the money. And then us, me and you, we live in poverty because they tell us we only make 50 grand a year, so we gotta live in a micro studio. Let me tell you, you fucking liberal leftist piece of shit, fuck you. I ain't living in a fucking micro studio. Fuck you, alright? Fuck you. Fuck you, Seattle. Fuck you, San Jose. Fuck you, San Francisco. So let me take you up to Alaska and show you some wilderness scenes up in Alaska, alright? Because after seeing that bullshit, we need to go up to Alaska quick, you know what I'm saying? Check it out. So we'll be walking this direction up to the 2 Mile Lake. And maybe we'll get lucky and see some mountain goats today. We're up pretty early, so there's no hikers up this early, so we have a high probability of seeing mountain goats. Two issues with the welfare state, how the welfare state is basically destroying the family, and the welfare state is basically a weaponized system to destroy the family, get the father out of the home, so then the single woman with the children will basically get married to the government, Uncle Sam, get on all the welfare systems, and then the welfare systems are basically designed to keep her in poverty, keep her poor, and then at the same time it's also designed so those children don't have a father, and then they don't learn the skills they need to compete in life, and then they grow up to in general be poor as well, and then they go into the low wage jobs, which then keeps the wages low because you have a massive amount of population that basically is low wage because they don't have the skills they need to get better paying jobs. And because the economy is turning into a low wage economy, in my opinion, that's what the welfare state was designed to do. Designed to basically, it's a social engineering experiment. Well, it's not an experiment, it's actually really happening. It's social engineering by the social engineers to basically transform society from a middle class society to basically an impoverished, poor society, where then they can use those impoverished, poor people as basically low-wage slave labor and minimum wage jobs, which is what the economy is creating by the millions. So here's a house in Alaska for $175,000. All these houses I'm showing you are realtor.com. You just go to realtor.com and you can check out the prices for yourself. It's a really good site. Lets you know about the house prices. So this is pretty typical of a small house in Anchorage. $175,000 is a small house. It's only like 900 square feet. 2 bedroom, 1 bathroom. Just a small little house. Something nice in Anchorage would be about $250,000. $250,000 would be a nice house. But this one, a small little house, it's about $175,000. However, this one is really cool because this is where it's located. Let me show you. This is where it's located. This is the best part. So we're looking right there at Anchorage. This is why this house is so cool. So it's located right here. See right there? 2 blocks away is all wilderness. This is all wilderness, basically. So you got hiking trails everywhere. Just 2 blocks away. Basically all of this right here is all mountain range. This is all mountain range. So the house is right here. Just 2 blocks away, this is all forest. So you just walk 2 blocks and you get to forest. And then you walk through the forest for about a mile, and this is all mountains. These mountains are like 5,000 feet elevation. So you got these awesome, awesome mountains just a mile away from where you live. You just walk 2 blocks from your house, get to the mountain hiking trail, you just walk through the forest for a mile, and then you're right at the mountains. And you can just go hiking in these mountains for days. It's totally awesome. So that's why this house is so cool. Here's basically the banner. It's real simple. It's basically about cutting taxes, because taxes are way too high. Cutting immigration over 50%, because basically that will make our wages go back up. And that will make house prices stabilize, and that will make the rents stabilize. Right now we have massive out-of-control immigration, and because massive out-of-control immigration is creating a massive housing shortage, is causing house prices to skyrocket. We're bringing in like 2 million people into the country every year, and that's causing housing prices to skyrocket. It's causing the rents to skyrocket, and it's causing our wages to collapse. So we need to cut immigration 50%. We got to cut immigration 50% so we can stabilize the housing prices, stabilize the rents, and make our wages start going back up. We also need to eliminate the welfare state, because the welfare state is basically a magnet. It's basically a magnet for illegal immigrants to come here and get the welfare state. It's a magnet for a lot of immigrants come here and they get the welfare state. We got to eliminate the welfare state to eliminate that magnet. Another thing we got to do is we got to eliminate the income tax, eliminate the property tax. We got to build the walls to prevent illegal immigration, and we also got to build a wall around San Francisco, because basically San Francisco is a ticking time bomb, folks. Right? San Francisco is a ticking time bomb. Once that city has an earthquake of 8.0, there's going to be about 2 to 3 million people. 2 to 3 million people in the San Francisco Bay Area are going to need to be relocated. They're going to be relocated to Wyoming, Utah. They're going to be relocated to Texas, Alaska. They're going to be relocated to the Dakotas, Idaho, Montana. They're going to be relocated to all these western states predominantly, and they're going to cause Democrat senators to be elected in those states. So you're going to see Alaska with 100,000 people, left-wing socialist Democrats from San Francisco are going to be relocated up to Alaska, and that 100,000 voters, 90% of the voters in the San Francisco Bay Area vote Democrat, left-wing gun banner Democrats. If you have 100,000 of those people going up to Alaska, they'll basically turn the state into 2 Democrat gun banners overnight. Overnight, 2 Democrat gun banner socialist extremist Democrats will be elected in Alaska. You will have Democrat gun banner socialist in Wyoming, Montana, the Dakotas. A lot of western states will immediately flip to Democrat states, because a lot of these western states, they only got like 6, 7, 800,000 people. Only, say, 150,000 people vote. Say Alaska, for example, you might have an election, you only have 150,000 people vote, all right? It's like 60% Republican, 40% Democrat. Second those San Francisco people arrive, that state turns Democrat. And it's not just any Democrat, it's gun banner, left-wing, rent control, socialist Democrats, the worst of the worst, because San Francisco people will flip it that direction. And that will happen in all these western states. It will be a nightmare. It will be a disaster. That's why San Francisco needs to be an independent nation. It needs to be spun off. We need to build a wall around San Francisco and make it its independent nation. So when they have an earthquake, they have to deal with it. They don't get it come all over the West and then flip America into a Democrat cesspool, so we become Venezuela. So we become a Democrat socialist cesspool like Venezuela. We need to spin San Francisco off so that does not happen. The other thing I want. So now I'm going to go back to Toronto. Let me just go back to Toronto. This is a house that just sold. See that house right there, that little white one? It's on a tiny little lot. Look at the concrete in the front. Tiny little lot in Toronto. That house just sold for $1 million. $1 million for this tiny, tiny, tiny house in Toronto. It sold over $370,000 over the asking in a bidding war for $1 million. The city of Toronto is an absolute joke. The house is over $1 million in Toronto. The average house in Toronto is like 1.2 million. It's an absolute joke. And let me just show you something about Toronto. I got it right here on Google Earth. Here it is, right here, Toronto. All right. Now I'm going to zoom out. All right, that's downtown Toronto. I'm zooming out now. And look at all the green. Look at all the green. Let me just zoom into the green and show you what that is. All right, we're about 20 miles from Toronto. That's 20 miles from the city, all right? Let me just zoom in. That's farmland. What you're looking at is farms. This is all farmland. This is farmland about 20 miles from downtown Toronto. This is farmland. There's hundreds and hundreds of square miles of farmland just 20 miles from Toronto. This is in a green zone, green belt, no growth, smart growth area where they will not allow you to build houses. This farmland is off limits to development. This is what liberals do. They use zone restrictions and then they block development in the farmland so you can't build houses in the farmland, and as a result the prices in the city skyrocket. There's another issue going on in Toronto why the house prices are so high. Not only have liberals used zone restrictions banning houses development in these farmland areas with their no growth, smart growth zone, but it gets worse. It gets worse, people. So I just told you this house is 1.2 million. Why are the prices so high in Toronto? Here's why. Here's why. Let me just show you. This is why the prices are so high in Toronto.
And then we'll spend 12 hours inside of the factories.
This is a slave factory in China.
10.5 hours work because the break time.
They work 6 days a week.
You get bored because like you're just repeatedly doing the same thing. The amount that I get is 3,100 yuan. I think that's around $450. It's per month, but it's included the base salary plus the overtime.
All right, so here's the article. You can read it yourself. I'm just going to do it real quick and just explain it. So basically, he went undercover in a slave factory in China. They work 6 days a week. They're in the factory 12 hours a day. They work 10.5 hours a day because they get some breaks and lunch. So it's 12 hours times 6. So it's about 72 hours a week. And then they live in a dorm. Let me try to find the dorm. They live in a tiny little dorm. Here it is. Here's the dorm. All right, here's the dorm.
We only have one restroom and one bathroom for shop side of the main campus. Some are off campus. My dorm is off campus. We need to take a shuttle bus, which is about 10 minutes.
So that's where you sleep with a bunch of other strangers.
But in one floor, we only have one.
And then there's only one bathroom on one floor that you have to share with.
It's shared by about 200 people. Because we have about.
So that's basically what's happened is you have these slave factories been set up in China. That's where all our factory jobs went. They went to China. Then they work like slaves, and then the factory owners get filthy rich. The factory owners in China get filthy rich. They have so much money, these factory owners in China, these rich people in China have so much money, they then go to cities like Toronto and cause the house prices to be astronomical. They then go to cities like Toronto and cause the house prices to be millions of dollars. They go to cities like Vancouver, Sydney, Seattle, San Francisco, all these cities in the West. They go to these cities and they just drive up the housing prices, make housing millions and millions of dollars, so then we can't afford housing. That's what's happening all over the West. Crazy Monkey here. You just saw that clip about those slave factories in China. Saw the clip about the slave factories in China. That's where our manufacturing jobs went, all right? People like me, people like you, we used to work in manufacturing making 20, 25 bucks an hour in manufacturing jobs. Now our jobs are gone. We're told to be retail workers, and they ship our jobs to China. And now the Chinese are doing it, and they're totally enslaved. The Chinese people are totally enslaved. It's so sad. It is so totally sad. You know, that Foxconn factory, and that one's actually better than most. Most are actually worse than that. Most are actually worse. Most work like 16-hour days. Most are like even 7-day work week. Most are worse. All right, that's actually one of the better ones. Most of the Chinese factories are worse than that one. Can you believe it? And then those factory owners, you know what they do? They come to Seattle, they come to Vancouver, they come to Sydney, they come to all these western cities, San Francisco, LA, they come to all these western cities and they buy up the houses for $1 million each. They see a house for $800,000, they bid $1 million, they make the prices skyrocket, and then you know what they do? They throw us Americans homeless to the streets. Yeah, they throw us homeless to the streets. They take the houses, they throw us homeless to the streets. And then the thing about it is too, a lot of these people, they'll come to America, and they'll have an anchor baby, all right? And then they'll buy a condo, throwing the Americans homeless to the streets. Then they go back to China. These filthy rich Chi-Coms, those are the factory owners. They go back to China. And then when that anchor baby is 20 years old or 19 years old, the anchor baby comes back to America, lives in that condo, all right? And then the anchor baby will petition the parents. The parents will come across as citizens, and they'll get Social Security. Yeah, that's right, they get Social Security. They never paid in. They're 65 years old, they come back to America, 68, 70 years old, they come back to America, they never paid into Social Security. They get Social Security. They get Social Security and they never paid in. Now, if you're an immigrant and you come to America and you pay into Social Security, you deserve to get it. You deserve to get it just like all of us. That's totally cool. That's totally awesome. But if you come to this country, all right, and you never pay in, why do you get that? Why do you get Social Security when you never paid in? These are filthy rich people, foreigners, filthy rich. They come to America at 65, 70 years old, and they get Social Security, and they never paid in, and it is sick. It is so sick, all right? So let me just talk about a few more issues. Oh, so I do got this tiny house link. Good thing, because I think I might have forgot to give you this one. So I'm pretty sure now I gave you all the links. I believe this is the only one I forgot. And then this is the pollution in China. This is another site. You got to check this out. This shows just massive, massive pollution from these factories in China. It's absolutely depressing. China is just a polluted nightmare. So here's a child playing in just a toxic waste dump, basically. Here's a factory that's just spewing pollution. The smog is so bad you can't even see in front of you. And there's like 20 pictures of just pollution and just garbage on the streets everywhere. It's just shocking. Here's another article about Venezuela. Basically another socialist cesspool. And basically these Venezuelan socialist tyrants have basically looted the country. The middle class are dirt poor. They're eating out of garbage dumpsters. The country's collapsing. And these filthy rich elites, the socialist elites, the filthy rich socialist elites that have got all this money, they basically are buying real estate all over the world. $1 trillion has disappeared from Venezuela. It's going in Switzerland bank accounts by these socialist elites, Hong Kong bank accounts, New York bank accounts. It's just an absolute nightmare. The country's totally collapsing. These Chavez kids bribe government officials to build these non-functioning power plants. They overbuild the government by $1 billion, and then they went on a buying rampage all over the world, just buying up real estate everywhere, buying up real estate in New York, Manhattan, Paris. I mean, they just bought up tons and tons of property, driving up real estate prices, and this is happening worldwide. You know, you got the filthy rich Chinese communists buying up houses all over the world, all over the Western world, causing housing prices to be sky high, Americans being thrown to the streets homeless by the thousands. And then you got these socialist tyrants in Venezuela buying up houses with all the money they looted. It's just disgusting. It's just utterly, utterly disgusting. These factory owners in China, these Shicoms in China, they dump toxic waste in the water supply. Children get cancer. Villagers are getting cancer. You have over, I read somewhere, it's like 250,000 people in China every year are dying because of pollution. Are dying of pollution every year in China. Over 250,000 people are dying of pollution, a lot of them children. And it's just so sad because these factory owners in China, they just dump the toxic waste into the water. They don't care. They make a ton of profit. Just dumping the toxic waste in the water. Children are dying of cancer. They make a ton of profit doing that, not following any rules, not following any disposal rules, just dumping the toxic cancer-causing chemicals right into the water supply. Children are dying of cancer. Villagers are dying of cancer in these cancer cities all over China. It's so sick. It's so disgusting. And then you know what they do? These filthy rich factory owners in China, these filthy rich people that are dumping the toxic cancer-causing chemicals in the water supply, killing children, killing villagers. You know what they do? They come to Seattle, they come to Vancouver, they come to Toronto, and they make the houses millions and millions of dollars. So then we can't. All right, so you just see that clip? Well, here's another clip about Alaska. It's way, way better than that clip, all right? Check it out. This is Crazy Monkey back in. You saw that house in Toronto for $1 million. $1 million. You know why? Because the Shicoms are buying up all the houses in Toronto. They're buying up all the houses in Vancouver. $2 million for the average house in Vancouver. $2 million for the average house in Vancouver because the Shicoms are buying up all the houses and the rich, filthy rich foreigners are buying up all the houses. And then middle class Canadian, Chinese, middle class Canadian are getting evicted, thrown to the streets. They can't buy a house because they can't afford it. They're priced out forever. And meanwhile, these filthy rich factory owners in China, they get to go to all these western cities, Vancouver, Toronto, Seattle, Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York. They go to all these western cities, buy up the real estate, cause the prices to go sky high. I showed you the article about Venezuela, how the Venezuelan socialist elites are buying up all the houses all over the planet. They're buying up condos and these. It's just sick, man. It's sick. It's so sick. And then we can't afford housing because they make the prices go sky high. It's so disgusting, all right? It's so sick. So in another article I want to talk about is so basically I want to talk about immigration. You know, immigration should be cut 50%. And here's why. You're an immigrant, right? And you think, oh, I'm a bigot because I want to cut immigration 50%. The real reason I want to cut immigration 50% is because I want you to have a chance to be middle class. I want you to have higher wages so you have a chance to be middle class. The current system is they're bringing in 2 million immigrants, 2.5 million immigrants into America because they're making you slaves. They're flooding the country with immigrants because they're lowering the wages, making the housing and the rent sky high, and then you become a slave. All right, I want to lower the immigration 50%. I think the immigration should be cut 50% because I think when you come here, you know, you should have a chance to be middle class. You should have a chance to get a good wage, a good job, and become middle class and be a homeowner and be successful. You know, that's all. I just think that people that work hard should become homeowners. You know, you work 40 hours a week. You should become a homeowner. You shouldn't be poor forever. You know, the liberal socialist San Francisco socialist system is about making you poor. It's about making you live in a micro studio. It's about making you dirt poor so you can't afford to have a good life. It's so sick. San Francisco is a disgusting sick. Hi, it's Crazy Monkey here again. So basically this is the link of the California article about basically here's the link right here. Here's an article about California. California, the employers in Los Angeles are having to pay their top performers huge bonuses to get them to live there because the house prices are so high. So these corporations are having to pay their CEOs and their executives like $50,000 bonuses, hiring packages, give them all this lavish extra pay to get them to live in Los Angeles because their $200,000 salary will barely buy them a house. But here's the thing. This is what's absolutely devastating. The study shows that high housing costs are burdening our leading employers, either by having to develop special hiring packages or subsidizing transportation and relocation costs. That's for their high-end employees. That's for the CEOs, the $200,000, $300,000 salary employees. But by contrast, most of the employers surveyed said no special outreach, no bonuses, no programs have been put in place to retain the lower skilled workers, blue-collar lower skilled workers making minimum wage because local supply is abundant, because there's a massive surplus of the lower wage people. Well, there's a reason why. LA has over 1 million illegal aliens in LA. LA city area has over 1 million illegals in the Los Angeles area, and that's the reason why the wages have collapsed, and that's the reason why they have a massive surplus of workers, and that's why the wages go from the same website. I'll just go on it real quick. And that's in San Francisco. 46% of the young people want to leave because it's basically traffic congestion. Skyrocketing housing prices have caused 46% of Bay Area millennial young people to want to look at leaving the increasingly unlivable region. I mean, San Francisco, Seattle, San Jose, they're just completely unlivable areas where it's just a living hell. Living in these cities is an absolute living hell. Here's home ownership rates. I hope I'm giving you all these links. I think I might have skipped one or two of them. Alright, so that's the link for this one. And this is home ownership rates, and middle America is declining. These are all like middle America cities. A bunch of them. And this is the home ownership rate in the year 2009. It's about 50% in all these cities. Home ownership rate's about 50 to 56% in all these cities. And here's what it is in the year 2015. Here's what it is. It's in the 40s. It's collapsed. The home ownership rate is collapsing. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, the house prices in these areas are skyrocketing. Right, the house prices are skyrocketing nationwide. That's true. But the thing is, it's not Americans that are benefiting, because a lot of the filthy rich foreigners are buying up all the houses. They're turning them into rental properties. They're turning them into Section 8 rentals. A lot of these houses in middle America, and especially on the coast, like San Francisco, Seattle, are being bought up by filthy rich foreigners that are just buying up our houses. And we're becoming a nation of slave renters. I'll be talking about that quite a bit as well. And let me just show you the link. I can't remember if I showed you the link, but this is from Bloomberg. It's political extreme correctness, where you can't criticize anything. You can't criticize a Chi-Com because then you'll be caught racist. You can't criticize, say, a radical Islamic terrorist because then you'll be considered a bigot. And that's bullshit. That's absolute bullshit. You know, I'm totally against political correctness because it's basically shutting us down. It's about making us slaves. It's about making us live in Seattle or San Francisco, live in a tiny little 130 square foot micro studio with the toilet in the bathroom, and then we're slaves, and we can't criticize anything, even when it deserves to be criticized. It's a slave system, that's what it is. And I'm vehemently against it because that's what it is, it's slavery. You see all these politically correct social justice warriors in these universities, and they're basically bowing down to a system, the socialist system, which is basically supported by the rich elites. The rich elites are the ones that are promoting the socialist system, and it's disgusting. It's so sick. So anyway, in closing, I want to talk about, real quick, France is going to have an election pretty soon. France is going to have an election. And hopefully Marie Le Pen wins the election because she's the best choice for France. And I strongly support Marie Le Pen, and I hope she wins. Because basically France is in trouble. France is in big trouble. They're way more further into the globalist agenda than America, and they're in big trouble. You know, their culture is radically transforming. I was just in Paris a few months ago. It is radically transforming. And Marie Le Pen truly is France's last choice. You know, France's last chance. Sorry about that, I meant France's last chance. You know, immigration's got to be cut. They got to get the immigration under control because pretty soon France is no longer going to be France. That's what's going to happen. It'll no longer be France. So hopefully Marie Le Pen wins. She wants to bring the factory jobs back to France. She wants to support the industrial workers. And she wants to support keeping France, you know, not allowing it to become completely overrun by third world immigration that would turn it into an Islamic Sharia law country. You know, she supports France, staying France. So hopefully she wins. In London, this is the issue in London. Let me just give you the article. Alright, so this is London, how they have massive immigration in London, and the city is radically changing. It's completely transforming. This is happening in Paris too. I was just in Paris, I was just in Europe, and I'll talk about it a lot on the blog. Paris has totally changed. I went there 10 years ago, I just went there recently, and it's totally changed. It was incredibly depressing. The city is radically transforming. What's really awesome about Alaska, it's not the homeless bums pissing and shitting all over the streets like they do in San Francisco, y'all. It's more like this. Check out the clip. I guess I'll talk about food stamps for a little bit, because I was working in a grocery store for 10 years and I saw just massive food stamp fraud, and that's what turned me into a libertarian, basically, seeing how the social welfare system is just totally destroying the country, just completely destroying the country completely. So, I mean, I saw everything. I saw people just getting $100 in steak on food stamps, and I saw that all the time. I mean, that was like every day. Every day you would see that. People just getting $100 in steak on food stamps every day. People getting $40 of 2 bags of shrimp on food stamps. People getting $40 in Coca-Cola and Pepsi products on food stamps. Every day you'd see that. Like almost every order on food stamps, you'd see like $20, $40 in Coca-Cola and Pepsi products. And literally like almost every order, you would see just bags and bags of potato chips, candy. I mean, it's just a bunch of junk. I mean, that's basically what they're buying. They're buying a bunch of junk food. Very rarely would you see like fresh vegetables, fresh fruits, you know, stuff like that. You would see very rarely. I mean, you would see it occasionally, but very rarely would you see like wholesome, good food. Very rare. And then a lot of the orders, it would just disgust you. Like one time, I think I was talking about this earlier, I saw 4 guys come into the store. They were totally in shape, totally able-bodied, like in their 20s, completely able-bodied, and they had like $40 in Adwala juice drinks on food stamps. Another time, we had these lobster tails for $6 each, and the lobster tails ran out halfway through the day. We sold hundreds and hundreds of these $6 lobster tails because the food stamp people were just buying them by like 10 and 20 at a time. They were just buying like 10 lobster tails, 8 lobster tails, 15 lobster tails. They were just buying them up. Like every food stamp order, you would see like 10 lobster tails, 5 lobster tails, because they were on sale. So $6 was a good price, and they were just buying them up like crazy. And we ran out like halfway. As the day was half over, we were completely ran out of lobster tails, and then the welfare people got really angry that we ran out. They're like, "Why you run out of lobster tails?" And we're like, "Well, people are buying them like 5 and 10 at a time. So when people are buying them that much, and like every single order, it was like first of the month, every single order was a food stamp order. So the store's like jam packed, and like every food stamp order, we got like 5 and 10 lobster tails on like every single food stamp cart. We're gonna run out real quick." So we ran out halfway. As the day was half over, we ran out of lobster tails, and then you had to deal with their arrogant attitudes for the rest of the day, because we ran out and they were all pissed off that we had no more lobster tails. So that was another really negative experience. Another negative experience is I was doing an order on food stamps for this customer. It was a $250 order, mostly junk. Mostly junk. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was mostly junk stuff, junk food, probably a lot of steak, a bunch of junk food. And then I took the food stamp order out to their car. I took the cart out to their car, and then their car was a Cadillac Escalante. And people say, "Oh, that's rare. That never happens." It happens like all the time. Like I'd say 50% of the people were driving Chevy Suburbans, Ford Explorers, Grand Jeep Cherokees. I mean, they were driving nice SUVs 50% of the time. And then another thing you start to notice with the food stamp people is there's just massive, massive fraud in the system. You would see people with 2 and 3 cards. You'd see people with 6 cards. I mean, just total fraud. You would see a lot of people, what they would do is you would see a woman come through the line. She'd buy a $200 order on food stamps, and you'd see this man. She's with the man. You can tell it's her boyfriend. They're not married. They do it on purpose. They don't get married on purpose. And then he's basically standing there, and you can tell he works because he's dressed in construction clothes. He's got paint splatter all over his clothes. You know he's a working guy. You know he's working. You know he's making 30, 40, 50 grand under the table. And then they're not married. They're not married. And then she gets all these benefits, and it's a total sham, and it's bankrupting the country. So she's getting food stamps, she's getting Section 8, she's getting all these programs, and then it's just completely bankrupting the country. That's why we need to eliminate the welfare state. We need to just completely gut it and start over. That's what we need to do. We need to eliminate the income tax. We need to eliminate the welfare state, completely gut it, and just start over. And starting over, in my opinion, would be you have a 10% national sales tax, no exemptions. There's no exemptions. It's 10% on everything. It's the entire economy, 10% national sales tax, no exceptions. No exceptions. Food, 10% tax. Healthcare, 10% tax. You get a car, you pay 10% tax. You get a house, you pay 10% tax. You're a corporation, you buy 40,000 tons of steel to make your products, you pay 10% tax on the steel that you purchase. You want to buy a stock, you pay 10% tax on the stock, because technically a stock is a piece of a company. So technically you're buying a piece of a company, so you would pay 10% sales tax on the purchase of a piece of that company. You want to buy a building, 10% tax. You pay 10% sales tax on everything. So you buy a house, 10% sales tax on the house. So basically you tax every single thing at 10% sales tax. And when you do that, the economy, I think they said it's like $17 trillion. So then you would raise about $1.7 trillion in sales tax, because you're taxing the entire economy at 10% sales tax. The only thing that you wouldn't tax, in my opinion, would probably be like bonds. Bonds would not be taxed, because you're like loaning somebody money, so it's like putting money in a bank, getting 3% interest. That's not really a sales. You're not buying anything. So in that way, you would not pay a sales tax on something like that. So if you get 3% interest on your bank account, you would not pay sales tax on that. And in my opinion, a bond would be basically the same thing. It would be very similar. So you wouldn't pay sales tax on bonds. Bonds would be tax-free. In my opinion, that would probably be the way it would work. But then when you buy a stock, it's a little different, because a stock, you're actually purchasing a piece of a company. Technically, you're purchasing a piece of a company, so technically you're purchasing a piece of the building they own. You're purchasing a piece of the merchandise they sell. So because you're technically purchasing something, then you should pay 10% sales tax on that purchase, in my opinion. So when you tax everything at 10%, you'd raise about $1.7 trillion, and then that money would be more than enough to do the $1 trillion. It would be like over $1 trillion that would go to what I was saying earlier, Basically, everybody gets a $500 check when they retire. Everybody gets a $250 check as they're working, as they're 18 to say 69, they get a $250 check, which with the exception of those 1-year retirement years, like 39, 49, 59, where they get a $500 check, because those are also retirement years where they don't have to work. Because every 10 years you work, the company has to give you 1 year off, and then they have to keep your job. So then 1 year later you go back to your job as normal, everything would be normal, and then that way you'd be getting 1 year retirement years every 10 years you work. So you work 10 years, and then you get 1 year of retirement. And then that way, if you die of a heart attack when you're 55, at least you were able to have 3 years of retirement. You had 29 as retirement, 39 as retirement, 49 as retirement. So you at least got 3 years to basically travel the world. You had 3 years to basically just do whatever you want and not have to work and still make an income to do it. So that's what I believe the system should be. And then the advantage of that system is then, if, like I said, if you were to have a heart attack at 54 and pass away, at least you got to have a little bit of retirement. And the other advantage of that system too is, imagine it like this. Let's say you retire at 69. When you're 69, you're too old to do a lot of fun stuff. Like climbing these mountains is a lot of fun, but when you're 69, it's going to be really difficult, if not impossible, to climb mountains like this. You're not going to be able to do this. That's why you need to have 1 year retirement when you're 29. You need to have 1 year retirement when you're 39. So then you can just take a year and just climb mountains, and you can go to Switzerland and go skiing in Switzerland for 3 months straight. That's why we need to do this 1 year retirement when you're 29, 1 year retirement when you're 39, 1 year retirement when you're 49. So you can just take a year off and go ski in Switzerland. You know what I'm saying? That would be a really awesome system that I think we should do. And we can pay for it with the 10% sales tax, because you'll get $500 monthly check, guaranteed. And of course, a lot of people say, well, $500 ain't enough to survive. That's true, but then you can save money on your own as well. Remember, you're also going to be getting $250 every month when you're working. So you could save all that money. So then when you retire for that 1 year at 29, think about all the money you're going to have. You're going to have, if you save $3,000 per year, that's like $30,000 over 10 years. You take that $30,000 that you saved off that cash back, the government's giving you that money, because that's a rebate from the sales tax. That's what it is. You take that $30,000 and then you add the $6,000, because the $500 per month will be $6,000. That's $36,000. For $36,000, you could easily retire for a full year and just enjoy the entire world easily. Like if you're a renter and you have $36,000, here's what you do: you break your lease. You let your lease expire. You then take your 1 year retirement. You have no lease to pay for. You have no apartment to pay for. Your job is held for you. Your job would be held for you. The company would have to hold your job or give you a similar job when you get back. You get back, you have a similar job, same rate of pay. That's how they have to do it. And you would then have that 1 year of freedom. You'd have $36,000. You could literally just travel the whole world. So you could be 29 years old, and you could take your wife, and you could just travel the world, and she'd have $36,000, you would have $36,000, and you could just travel the whole world. You could go to Europe for 3 months. You could go to Switzerland, just ski for a whole month in Switzerland. You come up to Alaska for 2 weeks, just have a huge hiking vacation for 2 weeks, and you can just travel the whole world for a whole year at 29, completely paid for by the system that I just talked about, the 10% sales tax, which would then give you a $250 check every month. And then when in your retirement years, you get a $500 check every month. And that's for everybody. It's guaranteed. Everybody gets it. That's how the system would work. And then people at 18 years old, they benefit even more, because they get the $50,000 check. They get a one-time $50,000 check when they're 18, and then that would create the middle class renaissance, because then all those 18-year-olds that get that $50,000 check, they can go to college. They don't have to pay for it, because they get $50,000 of money to pay for their college. They don't have to go $50,000 in debt. They can just pay for it with cash. They could take that $50,000. They could start a small business. They could get a truck, start a painting business. I mean, there's all sorts of small businesses they could start with that 50 grand. They could even go buy a condo in Middle America. They could go to Middle America and say they want to have a simple life. They just buy a condo outright. The condo's 50 grand. They just pay 50,000 cash. They just buy the condo outright, and they're automatically lower middle class automatically at 18 years old. So what that would essentially do is it would create a middle class renaissance in this country, and then that would create a massive amount of income equality. So right now we have massive income inequality because of the welfare state. The welfare state creates massive mega income inequality. That's what it's designed to do. A lot of people say the welfare state don't work. No, actually, the welfare state works exactly the way it's intended to do. It's doing exactly what it's intended to do. It's creating massive income inequality. It's collapsing the wage rates. It's totally collapsing the wage rates. And it's destroying the family. It's doing exactly what they want it to do. And it's creating an environment where you have millions and millions of poor people at slave labor jobs for very low wages. No, the welfare state's doing exactly what it's intended to do. It's completely destroying society, and it's making the billionaires richer and richer and richer. People say, how do the rich people get rich off the welfare state? Well, here's how they do it. Food stamps. All these people get their food stamps. They go to Wally World. They go to the grocery store, and they just buy shrimp and steak and lobster and Odwalla. Now, where does all that money go? Well, that money goes to buy those products, but eventually that money goes into the CEO's pocket. Because a lot of the products that the people on food stamps purchase are high profit margin items. That's a fact. They buy the high profit margin items, and that profit goes to the grocery store. That profit goes to Sam Walton's. That profit goes to the billionaire elites. Literally. I mean, you look at, say, Wally World, for example, and you look at the Waltons, the Walton family, they make massive amount of profit off food stamps. And that profit makes them rich. They get filthy rich off the food stamp system. Here's another example. You got landlords, say in New York City, you got landlords all over the country that own thousands of apartment buildings. They own thousands and thousands of apartments. They have those apartments Section 8. They're making millions and millions and billions of dollars off the Section 8 because the government reimbursed them. The government gives them the money from the Section 8 tenants. So these rich people that own thousands and thousands of apartments on Section 8, they're making tons and tons of money. So it helps the wealthy get wealthier and wealthier and wealthier. Here's another true story. The Obama phones, they're like $1 for the Obama phone. Well, does it actually cost $1? No, of course not. It costs a lot more. So the government's reimbursing whatever telecommunication company does that. They get reimbursed, and then they're making a ton of profit off that system because the government's giving them a hell of a lot more than $1 per phone. They're giving them whatever the market rate cost or whatever the price is. I don't know what the price is, but the government's giving them money, so they're making a lot of profit off that. So what you basically have is you have a welfare state set up. And not only is it destroying the family, it was designed to do that, it was designed to destroy the family, but it's also making the rich people richer and richer. And then at the same time, the poor people are getting poorer and poorer. So it's just creating massive income inequality. That's basically what it's doing. And that's what it was designed to do. I mean, that's what it was designed to do. It was designed to destroy the family. It was designed to destroy the middle class and to create massive income inequality. So what we need to do is we need to eliminate that system and replace it with a system to create a middle-class renaissance. And that's what my opinion of a 10% sales tax would do. You eliminate the income tax, you eliminate the welfare state that the income tax pays for, because most of the income tax is paying for the welfare state. You completely eliminate the welfare state, and when I mean eliminate the welfare state, I'm talking eliminate all of it. I'm talking eliminate Social Security, eliminate Medicare, eliminate Medicaid, eliminate the federal pensions. I'm talking just a total elimination of the welfare state. All the welfare programs, just eliminate all of them. Just total elimination, 100% cuts in all of them. And then you replace it with this bare bones system of a 10% sales tax, and then you use that money to pay for the 20 billion food program, so the people that are starving and really need the food, they can wait in line for an hour and they can get their $10 bag of food. And then you replace it, and then you create the $500 billion hospital system, the free hospital, free clinic system, which would be more than enough money, because $500 billion would be more than enough because of all the cost savings that are built into the system. You would negotiate with the pharmaceutical companies, so you get the drugs at the same price Canada pays, the same price Europe pays. We're not going to pay the full market value no more. We're going to buy the drugs in bulk. We're going to buy the drugs in mass bulk, and by buying them in mass bulk, you'll get the same savings that they get in Canada and in Europe. You'll get the same prices. So that will save billions and billions of dollars. And then the next thing you do is you get rid of all these ambulance chasing lawyers. You got all these ambulance chasing lawyers suing like crazy. Probably 90% of the lawsuits are totally frivolous. Get rid of 90% of those frivolous lawsuits, and then the malpractice insurance drops 90%. So when you do all those... We've been hiking for 4 hours. Hopefully we'll be to the top of Mount Bold in about 3 hours. So there's a beautiful view of the mountain.